not looking very good for you.
Yeah, no.
I'm sure you're used to it by now, but what's it feel like to die?
I've been roaming around, always looking down at all I see.
As a dedication to the craft, my clone wrote this review, whilst my other clone edited this, whilst I will take credit for their hard work as I read this out in the toilet. Speaking of, my burrito is coming out.
All the small things.
Mickey 17 is the new Robert Pattinson film directed by Joon-Ho. It takes place in the future and follows the meek Mickey Barnes with no more options left in his life on Earth. He signs up on an expedition to a new planet with the occupation being an expendable, a disposable worker who gets reprinted after he dies. But the plot of this film begins to stir when he finds himself in a situation of multiples. Now that I got the synopsis out the way, if you don't want any, you know the gist. If you don't want spoilers, just skip to whatever. Skip to whatever before I start yapping. The performance in this film was pretty good. I think Robert Pattinson's performance is definitely the highlight here. His characters have always been unique and likable in their own ways. And with this one, it's no different. The film does frequent in voiceovers for keeping audience in place of the story, but also it works for internal monologue for Mickey in order to add character and for us to empathize with him. Having Robert Pattinson play Mickey differently was an interesting choice because it helps add characterization, as 17 is sort of a little bitch and goofy, whereas 18 is just a more aggressive and violent prick. But it's genuinely captivating to just watch Robert Pattinson perform as he slips into different accents like a glove. I thought the cinematography was a pretty strong aspect of this film. Bong Joon-ho is kind of known for his extensive storyboarding and his distinct visual style, and it's very clear here. And there's never a point in this film where the shots were boring. The scenes always looks like it took advantage of its color, lighting, and camera movements, but there was always a clarity that always maintained a sci-fi look. I would compare the visuals to Snowpiercer, one of Bong Joon-ho's previous work, where the look of that is very industrial and sci-fi. I thought the story wasn't necessarily extreme, as it is a very tonally strange film. I felt like it didn't really properly explore much with the human printer concept, as I anticipated 16 deaths prior to the 17th, and with a concept that is about human printing for a work environment, I thought it would have explored the workforce that is unfulfilling or just labor that is exploited. Although initially there is a focus on that, but it shifts from Mickey to then Mark Ruffalo, who plays a failed politician, turns into ruler of an expedition to rule over a different planet. Although I'm not the first person to point this out, Mark Ruffalo's performance is clearly entirely based off of Donald Trump before he got shot in the ear. And when the climax of the film occurs, it sort of becomes when the alien on the planet that they're trying to colonize fights back. And that's cool and all, but we've seen this type of trope with this type of philosophy of Nazi capitalism and imperialism before in the same genre, primarily with films like Avatar, Starship Troopers, and Argyle. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but what I'm trying to say is that Mr. Joon-Ho is clearly sophisticated, smart, and sharp enough to explore into a concept much deeper than it has been explored before. But I felt like with this one, he just went arm's length with it by focusing more on its ridiculous leaders rather than unique individuals. But this doesn't diminish the quality of the film, as this was just an expectation that wasn't met. Kind of a nitpick, but I don't know, maybe I need to rewatch it to process the film better. I do think the film does kind of end on an empty and dry note, but I don't know. I gotta wrap this up. It'll either be a weird hit or a weird miss, but Mickey 17 stands as a pretty enjoyable sci-fi satire that is more strange walk than a wild ride that is promoted in the trailers. I haven't seen Mickey 1 or 2 or all the way to 16, but this one was alright. 3 Robert Pattinsons out of 5. I do feel I need to rewatch it to digest it better, but I do think it's a pretty enjoyable film. It's got good performances, good visuals, and a very interesting story. I didn't find myself bored at any point. Just don't go into this expecting Parasite. Let me know what you thought. Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you read the book? I sure shit didn't. Or did you accidentally get here? I don't know. And if you did, what would your clone think? And how's it like to die? Good night.